Absolute Spirit here, in person.
Yes.
Since
in
for the first
person.
time on our channel, since our first video, the
Yeah.
day card
Yes.
version, which has been doing phenomenally well.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Let's talk about
especially
our
motivated to do it again
experience in
because of that.
philosophy.
Yeah, today's topic.
Yes.
There used to be a thing where it's like today's topic, slavery, like that's
What?
stupid. Like it's like the guy's name.
I don't know.
We might edit that out.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. That wasn't smooth at all. Today's topic, Alice and I's two ways of, I don't even want to say necessarily doing philosophy. Maybe
like
doing
experiencing the world,
just kind of approaching philosophy.
approaching philosophy and life generally. I think. Too.
I mean, yeah, those two are pretty inseparable for both of
True,
us, so that
yeah.
might be a good synonym. Would
So
you like to start or no? Or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Oh, go ahead.
So historically, Matt and I kind of differ in the sense that Matt is much more like learning and knowledge based, and I'm much more experience based. So my experience with philosophy is much more like practical and realistic. So I sort of like experience these things that I don't really understand, and I go through the world and I have experiences, and I know that they have philosophical meaning, but I don't really know how to put them into words, and I just experience all these like sometimes torturous, sometimes painful, sometimes wonderful, sometimes wondrous, sometimes magical, sometimes a combination of all of those. Like I have these experiences of the world, of reality, of history, of myself, of other people that I feel. I feel it very fully. I feel it in my body, I feel it in my mind, I feel it in my emotions, and I experience these things, but like understanding them has been difficult historically, but that's where it's been helpful when I have conversations with Matt, because he often is able to help put those experiences into words that are understandable to me and other people.
And that's one of the goals, by the way, of the channel, of our channel and our project of Absolute Spirit. Definitely one of our, like, I'd say, at least right now, especially our main motivator, is to get it out onto the web. And like what you're watching now, hopefully, is to get philosophy into more practical, understandable thing that like you not only can understand, but you can then like apply to your life and live out. And that's a good way to transition, I guess, to my approach to philosophy. I'm pretty like, I guess, inverted into, we have like an inverted relationship in terms of how we approach philosophy, I guess you could say. I'm much more like theory based, if you couldn't tell from Alice's explanation. I've always thought very abstractly and kind of just definitely like read a lot more. Like any human, obviously I experience life, and kind of like Alice, I struggled to put it into words. I always kind of like went for a word first approach as to like less of a feel approach. I almost always, like, as I'm experiencing things, I will like just be thinking about them at a very like high level, and that's not to sound like pretentious or anything. Like, maybe not even necessarily at a better level. In fact, a lot of times I think that hurts me in a lot of ways because I overthink, which is definitely like a real thing that I've experienced. But I'm just thinking about them a lot is what I mean, I guess, by high thinking, and trying high to translate, like high level meaning like I'm constantly trying to take these experiences and translate them into like words, into theory, into like a philosophical framework. And that's kind of just what I've been, especially in these past few years, I've been reading so much philosophy. Like, it was only like less than like 3 years ago that I like first started like reading Kant kind of seriously in like a university setting. And now on my other channel, this is Matthew Sherman, it's called, at least at the making of this video, on my own personal channel, which you can find in somewhere on our channel. There's like links to our personal channels. I'm doing a whole comprehensive, yet informal, as I always say, study of Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. And I'm doing lots of other studies too, and it's just, I've been reading so much, and I get these words that Alice talks about that fortunately I was able to help her and hopefully other people on this channel translate their experiences and find the frameworks to really understand them and where they fit into their lives. But that fitting into the lives is like Alice's really experience, it seems like, with being able to take philosophy into her life and like maybe struggle with the like philosophical language, but understand that it is profound, is significant. I'm kind of inverted, to bring it back to the beginning of the explanation, in the sense of like I have this language and I have this framework, and I don't always have the examples or have the experience to really put it in, to like apply it basically. Like for example, like Hegel's dialectic. I'm like, oh, this makes sense in my thought, and I think like this. But Hegel also makes these like very sometimes often like radical claims of, oh, reality, like practical reality works like this too. And I'm like, that makes sense, that follows, but like how? And then I'll be talking to Alice, and I'll be like, oh, I was reading about that. Like that's how it works in real life, so to speak, in concrete reality. I guess Hegelian language, you could say. And so I find it really interesting, like when Alice and I get together and we have like just sit down conversations, she'll tell me about just these like crazy, not in a bad way, but like kind of just mind blowing or just deep or profound or otherwise, philosophical experiences. And I'll be like, oh wow, that's an example of this larger framework, and maybe here's where you could go from there, or here's how I'm understanding this, or here's some maybe other meaning you could get out of based on how what you're saying fits into my framework. So Alice kind of brings the experience, and I kind of bring the theory to like water it down what we've just said in like a TLDR that lacks important and essential detail. But if you're just trying to get like a framework, I guess, of what we're trying to convey to you in this video, is that like we think it's really interesting that one of us has the theory and the other has the experiences. Which leads me to like, I guess maybe the second half of this video that I guess I want to introduce now, that I at least when I outline this video in my head, this is kind of like a more freeform thing, but loosely structured. And the second part of this loose structure I had in my head was to talk about how both of our methods of doing philosophy that we've just been talking about for the past few minutes have led us to some really interestingly similar conclusions. Because that's another thing when we talk, we're like, whoa. We've realized the same thing through like completely different methods.
Which I think is interesting about like to kind of points to an interesting like natural development in thought, right? Like if we can reach these same conclusions through these completely different methods, that points to the validity of the conclusions,
Yeah, not really in any sort of like system, I guess. Like I don't want to like it's not like there's like some rule of like some like formalized science saying, oh, it's extra true if it happens on both levels. But it's just interesting to like once we can follow each other's train of thought, we realize the validity of it through each other. Like it's the experiences, the similar conclusions of the experiences themselves aren't what make them true and deep. It's more like the realization of those experiences and then noticing the similarity and just really noticing that there's something connecting them there. It's just a really interesting train of thought to go down. Hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to bring up an example or two.
I think we were talking about manifestation.
Oh yes.
Also,
that's a good one. I wasn't sure too much about this because I don't really know exactly what you mean by manifestation. We should definitely learn about it more. But this could be an example of like what we mean. So for example, me being like the theory person, I was in the car with Alice and my girlfriend was driving, and she was like, oh Matt, tell Alice about your research. And I'm doing some research on Kant and AI, and long story short, Kant has this sort of transcendental schema, which means that we have this sort of metaphysical imagination that makes our experience necessary. We sort of spontaneously and actively, as opposed to like passively receiving things, we sort of actively create our visions of reality, and then sort of through the metaphysical process of the synthetic unity of perception, use that imaginative schema to bring it then into a concrete system and make our experience. And Alice thought that was really similar to manifestation. And I don't know if you want to like expand upon that a little more, kind of what you told me earlier.
So manifestation is definitely a word that gets thrown all around a lot and used in a lot of different contexts by a lot of different people, but what it means to me personally is forming thoughts in your head and bringing those thoughts into reality. So like deciding what you want for yourself and focusing on those desires and feeling as if they are real, and then them manifesting into reality. You're tapping into you as consciousness. You're tapping into consciousness itself, which you are a part of. And since the way I see things, consciousness is something that comes before physical reality. When you tap into your own personal consciousness, which is what created all of physical reality, then you're able to create your reality through accessing your consciousness.
And that is just eerily, I'm not going to go into the details, but when I hear something like that, I'm like, that's literally Kant. That is like transcendental idealism explained through like practical experience. Because you didn't arrive at this through reading Kant,
No,
right?
yeah, not
you
at
wanna
all.
Describe how you like came to this?
I mean, how I came
not
to
in
this.
maybe great detail, but
Yeah,
like maybe just
I can
hit some key points.
I can hit some
about,
key points.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I started hearing about manifestation. I think like last summer was when I really started to get into it, and I was very skeptical at first. You know, because again, it's something that just gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of people like use it very like kind of carelessly. But you know, I tried out some different like methods of manifestation, and I noticed that my life improved significantly. You know, like I would visualize aspects of my life in a way that was like more improved, and then I would take action when like my intuition told me to, and then I would see those like images that I had in my head coming closer to me, and what I wanted felt like it was getting attracted to me, and recently like it feels like so much of my life has just been falling into place in ways that I can't explain, in ways that don't really have a logical like sense or make sense logically, but are certainly related to what I've been thinking about and what I've been focusing on personally in my consciousness, what I've been training my subconscious to think about, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So that's great. And like I said, I got to pretty similar things just through reading like Kant and Hegel. And it's just like we've come to just a similar conclusion about reality. I mean, obviously things differ a little bit. Nothing like really exactly the same.
Right.
And like I don't think it really is supposed to be either. But just the fact that we can reach such like profound, similar, and what we think are pretty true insights just about reality and how like we function as people and all sorts of interesting philosophical, topics and concepts and ideas and notions like that. It's just cool that we can come to them through completely different routes.
So true.
Something that I also wanted to bring up, maybe as like a second example, but like a little different than what we just did. If I'm correct, and if it's wrong, we don't have to like do this, but if I'm correct, after a lot of your more like intense psychedelic experiences, and after a lot of like my reading, intense, heavy like study, not that that's over for me, but like, and like now there are your psychedelic experiences, but like our kind of initial things of those.
Yes.
We came to like very similar conclusions. Specifically, I remember like monism, and if you don't know,
yes,
monism is the view that reality is ultimately one, usually what philosophers call like substance, or even more vaguely just thing. Ultimate reality can like has one kind of, you could say like supreme principle, or ultimately is just one thing expressed in different ways. There are different variations of monism, but the overall important
is that all is one.
Exactly. However you take that could be different ways, but hopefully you get the idea.
People have different ways of explaining.
They do
oneness.
Both in just everyday the world and academic philosophy,
right,
and everywhere in between different monisms. But general monism, that reality is one. We both arrived at that general concept. There are different ways. Do you want to explain how, like, maybe like psychedelics especially had an effect on that?
So for
if
me,
it did.
yes.
If I'm remembering correctly. Okay,
yes.
I just want to make sure.
And I mean, like, so I would say it more broadly than just like actual drugs, like more broadly than just like psychedelic experiences purely, but like, also meditation, also.
Spiritual practices.
Spiritual practice.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to limit it too much.
No, that's okay.
Sort of that line of thinking is
I think psychedelic was kind of the lens that I looked at it through at first.
Yeah, especially you described it to me originally.
Yeah,
at least, yeah.
And I think I think psychedelics are a really good way, or a really helpful way to kind of come from a more like straight, narrow-minded way of seeing the world into a more spiritual way of seeing the world, and like to open yourself up to the possibility that there are things you don't understand about reality and that sort of thing. And so psychedelics definitely opened me to that sort of world. And the monism was something that I came to through a combination of like literal like drug-induced psychedelic experiences, and also meditation and like long-term spiritual practice and reading different sorts of things than you were reading, not reading like academic philosophy, but reading like, spiritual history and listening to certain audios and doing like just very deep meditation.
There's some like Eastern thought too in there, right?
Yes,
which
a
is
lot
also
of
really
Eastern thought.
interesting. Like Eastern thought has lots of like very basic insights that took Western philosophy a long time to like catch up to.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, the philosopher Schopenhauer comes to mind for me because like he's one of the first philosophers in Western canon to be like, well, look at what the Eastern philosophers are doing. They've had this for thousands of years. Like, why haven't we been paying attention to this? This is something we should be considering. And it's so cool that people like Alice can really like delve into that, and it's inspiring and something I should really do more as well.
Oh, thanks.
Did you have any specific insights from either spiritual experiences or psychedelic experiences? I know, there's overlap there, but like, more like meditation or like maybe more straightly drug induced, any like specific realizations that led you to like monism? Or was it just kind of like a collective thing that is hard to explain in a short video?
I can talk about like experiencing myself as like the universe experiencing itself. Like that was the first place that I kind of like came to monism through, was like was when I had the understanding like through experience of like through meditation, like kind of leaving my body and leaving myself and leaving my consciousness and like zooming out and becoming like all of consciousness, becoming like I was all of consciousness.
That's really cool.
It was really cool.
And you didn't see like split, you saw it was like a coherent, unified being.
It was
that
like everything
so cool.
everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
That's
so cool.
Like the movie title. But like
please
yeah,
don't
like
copyright us, YouTube.
yes, so true. But yeah, like seeing the totality of everything and seeing how I was just one part of it, and not even just a part, but like one lens that like everything was looking at itself through, like and then coming back to my lens fully, like so having that full expansion and then coming back, and like sometimes when I have that full expansion and come back, it's comforting and like sweet and wholesome, and it's like, wow, that was so cool. But other times when I have that full expansion and then come back, it's like devastating and it's like horrific, and it's like, especially if I expand to a point of like, I guess one other really specific example I'll bring up is like one particular psychedelic trip I had where I sort of expanded to the point of like, complete like ego dissolution and complete like lack of no sense of self, no sense of identity. And I was experiencing like what I describe and what I understand to be like the experience of both like the collective consciousness, like the collective unconscious, so like all of humanity, kind of like where we are like spiritually and energetically and that sort of thing, as well as like the earth consciousness, like the planet, and like it was just pure like pain and sickness and like darkness, and it was like 8 hours of like hellish, like not pleasant like disease really. And like so that I like expanded to that, and then I came back to my perspective and I was like, what am I gonna do? Like I felt so hopeless. It felt like temporarily like I was like, things are too far gone. Like this earth, these people, we're all too sick. It's all too far gone. There's no way we can fix this. Like just get me out of here. Like let me die, But then I realized like if I died, I would just be like, my like consciousness, my like energy would just be going back into this like sick consciousness without taking steps to heal it. And I realized that the only way out is through, and the only way out of this diseased state that like the world and everything is in at the moment is through healing. And we can't get out of it without that. There's no easy way out. We have to feel the pain. We have to feel what's going on in our own personal lives, in our own personal subconscious, and in the subconscious of the collective. And then we have to like feel that, and then we have to feel that and heal ourselves, and then from that healed state help to heal the world practically, like bring more return to plants, return to nature, stop killing the planet, stop killing each other, stop, living these lives that are fake and not real, stop seeing each other through lens of kind of like reality TV. I feel like so much of our, especially in America, like so much of the interactions we have is it's like a reality TV show. Like my when I go to class, it's like the teacher is like in a reality TV show because like their job is at risk, and like they have all these like things, and us students are like on another on another end of that. Like we're all performing is what I'm getting at. It like our social lives right now, our cultural existences, our performances for the point of like meaningless accolades and not practically improving reality. And I think it best serves us to drop that and to speak to one another as beings, not even as humans, but as being, right? We are consciousness. We are what consciousness is expressing itself as currently. And we can recognize that we are all consciousness and we are all expressing ourselves as consciousness in this form right now. And once we recognize that and we take back our power, then we have the power to just radically transform like practical physical reality as well. That was really long-winded and all over the place.
That's so base.
Cool.
Because this is a perfect example of me listening, and I can put all of this into Alice's development. Like, this is so fascinating. Mirrors like the history of philosophy, and you can see the necessary connection in Alice's thought and her explanation. I think anyway. I mean, maybe not at first, but like you could explain it so you could at least see the connections between the thoughts, and it's so cool because like I see that development in Western like theoretical thought, starting with like the realization that like consciousness is one, like all is one, right? What we started this conversation with, right? Back to Spinoza, monism, right? About like the geometrical proofs of there can be one substance that and it expresses itself in different ways. That's like Spinoza, and then that substance like changing like painfully and difficult. Like in difficult ways,
Yes.
and as subject, right, as a lens, as an instance of first there's like that unified thing, and then there's you viewing that thing as
a lens. Yeah,
that's Hegel. That's subject. That's substance as subject. Like first you have substance, it dialectically splits off, and then it views itself as subject, and is eventually reunified. But there's that initial split, and it's also very like painful because there's contradiction, and there's like dirty, difficult, painful, what Hegel calls, I believe, the labor of consciousness.
Yeah.
This is what it does, and there's specifically too like the viewing substance as subject. I want to highlight again too. That's just very Hegelian insight as well. And then we also move into like the Schelling about like going, instead of choosing death, choosing life in spite of all the pain and the possibility for like change and healing through these like very deep, profound metaphysical like methods. That's just like Schelling about like returning to those primordial forces that precede the dialectic, and that what really make reality tick as a whole, and really what is healing is living and is changing in spite of all the pain. That's like a lot of Schelling, which you made a video about, by the way, at the point of this recording. Is you can check out our video, Schelling's Temporal God of Love. And then from there, still continuing chronologically in the history of thought, which again, you could take as coincidence, but I think there's some necessary like development there. Then further from that, we have like the some of the postmodernists, or I don't really know where existentialism is somewhere weird between like modern philosophy and postmodern philosophy. But you have ideas from like Sartre, and then even like more radical, and definitely postmodern, you have like Baudrillard, right? This idea of wearing the mask, or in Baudrillard's term, the simulacra, right? We've begun living in such a way that doesn't represent the like OG consciousness that we are, like, right? We've lost our root, and in a Baudrillardian sense, right? In a simulacra sense, and we've also we're also actors, right? Playing our role in society. That's a very Sartrean idea, and it's just so cool that Alice like experiences, I think, the history of Western thought in such a necessary order. Yes. And human thought has also developed in such a necessary order. And so because of that, like, real, I think, necessity and development, as, like, philosophers like Hegel show, and other certain philosophers of history show, I just think there's a whole lot to be gained from that and a whole lot of insights to share and further development. Like, I think we both advanced philosophically just by talking to each other about our different experiences. And we really hope this like helps you too in some way. Not that in like you're like broken and need help way, but in this exact sense that we're talking about right now, like we're just sharing how we do things and some of our insights, and we hope that some speak to you.
Yes.
And you can help us too. Like we totally encourage engagement. If any has spoken, you encourage you just comment below and engage in our community. A lot of you have done that already, both on our YouTube and Twitch channels.
Thank you so much for
and it really helps. I think advance absolute spirit.
Yes,
that's what we are. That's what we're aiming to do. We want to advance things.
So true.
Through interaction, through negation, right? Which is a lot of which if you don't know what that is, we're coming out with a video about it soon, so that might already be out by the time you're watching this. So look on our channel for a video on dialectics and negation about and just kind of how Hegel works. Because if you couldn't tell by her name, we're very inspired both by I mean, not that Alice has read Hegel directly, but has experienced lots of ideas that she agrees with and that I agree with, and I at least the way I've explained it, we both agreed to be pretty Hegelian. So, so this has been great. I don't know if there's too much more to say.
No,
this is like a pretty natural
end.
Like
a nice conclusion.
Yeah, it is a fairly long video. We're like nearing 30 minutes, but what a great conversation and so insightful.
True.
And I think even if the beginning was a little hard to understand, hopefully through these examples and through these just conclusions and explanations, you come to understand the two very different ways of doing philosophy, but like equally valuable and infinitely more valuable when like paired with one another.
Yes, I think that's one of the most important takeaways for me is like the combination of the two, and sort of like, I mean, for me it's so interesting, and it feels so like aligned, and it feels like such a confirmation for all of my personal beliefs that like I'm at this point where like I'm having an experience that like I put into action. I like trusted that I was, going to a place where I would, improve my understanding and be able to advance myself and the world. And then like this came about,
Yeah. Absolute Spirit was actually born. I'm visiting my alma mater, I guess you call it now, because I graduated.
I'm still here.
Yeah. Alice is still a student.
Yes.
We're at the university.
In the philosophy room.
We're in the room of the philosophy room where I was the president. I am now the former president of the Philosophy Society at our university, and we're in the room where we had the meetings. And we were both freshmen back when we started, and we were in this room doing the Philosophy Society meetings where we just come together and we would just talk as a community of students just on this campus about philosophy and where we're. But we all just got together and shared our insights into life and the world and existing in it. And Heidegger mentioned, right, being in the world, crazy.
Yes.
And we're just really glad to be back here, and it's real for a full circle moment.
Yes.
And I guess one last thought I would want to leave this video with, at least for me, content-wise, is that I also, at least from my perspective, kind of like Alice shared, it's really we didn't have like a framework for this. I want to leave with an inspiring message that philosophy, I think, is there for you. Hopefully you've seen through our interactions, like no matter what thoughts you might be having, like someone has had them and put them in a very like strong, coherent framework where you can understand your own thoughts and where they might fit in a bigger picture of some thought system or reality, and find new insights in there, and find who responded to them, who critiqued them, and who just kind of through the process of philosophy, like just really found a higher, better way of being.
And even if you don't want to do that in a theoretical way, even if you want to do that,
you can talk to
by
people
living your
living
practical
your life, and
even if that has nothing to do directly with philosophy, like at least putting it into a philosophical lens, you can still advance yourself spiritually and live on a higher level through taking like action that feels aligned with you.
Yeah, and if you do want to read, coming from more my point of view too, like it's always there, and no matter like how weird or like scary or like frightening or threatening to like yourself or others, like worldview or just weird thoughts you might be having, there's a space for you, like here and just in generally in philosophy as like I wouldn't say a discipline, like as just a collection of human thought, and like as like an entity, an abstract like entity too, especially from like my perspective. Like there's a space for you, and it's okay for you to like be thinking these things, and like it's good, I would say, and I would actively encourage you to talk about it, try to live it more attentively, or if you're more like try to read about it. None of these things really can do harm, and you're okay, and you're on a good path.
So true.
Especially like if you're watching this, you're probably already like interested in philosophy, probably, or if not, that's okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully to get you interested in thinking and talking, and as long as you're doing that, you're gonna be okay. And there's always room for you somewhere. It may be hard to find, and it may be painful, and it definitely won't be easy. I can like guarantee you that it like won't be easy, and you'll go through pain and suffering, like not like in some like negative sense, but in like horrible sense, but like it won't be easy.
Sometimes it can feel horrible, but everything that you want and you desire is out there.
Yeah, and it will be okay. You'll find
it.
It
Will be okay, and you will be able to live your highest reality if you continue to make decisions that feel aligned with you, and you continue to focus on the reality that you want to see.
Yeah, no matter which way you do it, either Morales' way, my way, a mix of both. I think most people do it both.
Yeah,
we're both kind of just on the extreme ends of our methods.
Yes.
But no matter what method or like specific insights or just thoughts, no matter where you're at with any of that, you're good, and you're welcome here and anywhere really in philosophy.
So true.
So that's the message I want to leave you with. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of our community. We encourage you to, become part of it, mainly just by talking to us. I'm kind of obligated to say like and subscribe because that benefits us too. I'm not going to lie about that. And that would be great if you did.
Please like and subscribe,
but
because we would love to do more of this and be able to do this sustainably and make a career out of this.
But even if not, at the very least, we just encourage you to just come be a part of the community and come talk and just come help advance Absolute Spirit, both as just like our thing and the Absolute Spirit as a collection of philosophy and humanity and necessity and everything, totality, as Hegel was saying. So thank you.
Yes, thank you all.
And be blessed, be great, be philosophical. I don't